And finally, number 10, 10th benchmark of truth, it can scale both up and down. If it can only scale one direction to be viable, it's not truth. Another way to say this is it's not size discriminatory. It's not size discriminatory. You know, so many times today when somebody's got a business idea, what's the first thing people say? Oh man, how big can this be? Around our place, you know what our first question is on any idea, enterprise? How small can it be? Because if it won't work small, it probably won't work big. You know, a great example of this that we do is our pig compost. So, you know, you're familiar with big, windrow compost piles and all that. Well, we use pigs to turn our compost with the carbonaceous diaper. And what that means is that our infrastructure is appreciating. You know, we buy pigs for $100, sell them for $1,000. That's the way I like to buy equipment. You know, I went down to the farm store to buy some, hog nipples. The lady said, what are you using these for? I said, for compost turners. You know, that you play with cashiers that way, it makes them go buggy, Hog nipples, compost turners. Okay, we're going to turn compost with it. Yeah, right. But the beauty of using appreciating infrastructure to do your work is that the profit potential becomes size neutral. It doesn't just work when you have enough material to justify a $30,000 compost turner. It works at a scale of 2 cows and 1 pig because it's appreciating infrastructure. Okay? And so if it can scale both up and down, that works. And that's been one of my greatest delights in this homestead tsunami. And we are in a homestead tsunami, in case you missed it. I'll tell you what, in the last 2 years, especially last year, we had daily, steady stream of RVs coming by. Where are you from? New York, California, Michigan, always a blue state. And we're heading somewhere else. And we rented this RV, we sold everything, we rented this RV for a month. We don't know where we're going to end up, but we're looking. I've never seen that in my lifetime. I didn't even see it during the height of the hippie revolution in the 1970s with the beaded, bearded, braless revolution. It wasn't there. But boy, it's here now. It's here now. There is have you ever, one wasp nest? You got like a wasp nest on your back porch. And, you go in and out, and they just sit there, they're all just sitting there on the nest. And, but sometimes you bump something. You slam a door, a broom handle, something, and you bump something, and they all come up, and they kind of like, airplanes on the aircraft carrier, all their wings come up and you hear this kind of, That's the way I feel like a lot of us are right now in our culture. It's like our nest has been disturbed. Does anybody else feel that way? Yeah. Our nest is disturbed and we're sitting here, we're not sure where to launch, we're not sure how bad it is, we're not sure if somebody's going to beat our nest down, but we just kind of want to be ready, be ready to do something. And that's a lot of what this is. This homesteading tsunami, the beauty of it is that I'm able to talk, even though we're kind of, in that commercial end, and obviously we're, way beyond homesteading, the beauty of all of our stuff and our models is that they scale down as well as up. You can put electric fence up for 1 cow as well as 1,000. It's the same principle. She needs mineral control. You need access, control, and water. And the equity The equity is in our management. And that's scalable. You don't need to be big to have good management or to pay for good management. And so that's what's cool. So scaling up and down, profitability is not size dependent. That's the final benchmark of truth. So there you go. Think about the decisions, things that have been done by your board of supervisors, your state legislature, U.S. agriculture policy, your own community. I mean, think about decisions that are made, local businesses. And if you look at those decisions through, one more time, quickly, does it build carbon? Is it child friendly? Is it being honoring? Does it move to the equity? Does it move to immaterial equity? Does it empower innovation? Is it something everybody can do? Or does somebody not have to do something in order for somebody to be able to do that? Is it easy to enter and exit? Does it violate any of my fields of life, spiritual, ethical, economic, or ecological? Is it appropriate in both developed and undeveloped countries? You have to be a rich country to do it or a poor country. And finally, can it scale down as well as up and up as well as down? And I challenge you, you take those 10 and you start thinking about decisions that are being made in your community, run them through this, and you'll find out that there are very few decisions being made in our country based on these kinds of things. But in my view, these are true benchmarks of truth. All right. Let's go to some Q&A. Are y'all hot? Could we like open a window or something a little bit? Now okay, we're good. We're good. It won't take long. No, that's okay. I mean, keep it. Don't shut it that fast. But just a cracked window might help us. There's a lot of. I know it's just not my hot air. There's got to be more hot air here than just me.
Do you want to do questions? Like, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, I'll repeat the question. Okay, so let's go to some Q&A, and we'll see how this goes. And hopefully we've stimulated some thoughts. And if what you have has nothing to do with anything that I've said, that's fine too. We can do why, we can do how to, we can do big picture, little picture, whatever. Don't be good. We've already got a hand up. That's good. You can come to the altar. No. But don't be intimidated. We're all friends here. Every question is valid. Every question is important. And we're going to respect and honor every single one. So don't be bashful and just come right on. I know usually when you go over about 60 people in a group, people start getting a little bit, I'm not sure I want to ask. We're a lot over 60 here, but we're okay. So don't be bashful. If you want to write it down so you don't forget it, that's good too. All right. Yes, sir. You're number one. Go ahead.
All right.
Belt it out.
You're very well spoken, you're very knowledgeable, you've rubbed elbows with a lot of people, you've traveled the world. Have you ever thought about running for president?
Oh, me. Something that's interesting as this election, and I don't want this to all turn into some sort of partisan thing here, but I'll tell you what, as this 2024 thing starts to show up, if there was ever a time for a third party, I mean, it doesn't look real promising right now. And it's like my wife, Teresa says, she always looks at these candidates, she says, in a country of 330 million people, this is the best we can do? Really? No. So over the years, I've had recruitment committees come from the Greens, the Socialists, the Libertarians, the Republicans, the Constitutionalists, and the Democrats. I think I got them all. So, I'm not sure what that means. I don't know if it means. No, you know, I guess my thought is, yeah, I really, I'm serious. I've had these committees come and recruit, and you know, I'm totally unelectable, and well, because yeah, I'm totally unelectable. I think the culture has moved way beyond my electability, but more than that, I just don't have the time. If I've got time to do that, I'd rather write 3 more books. My pen is more powerful than anything else. And has anybody here read any of my books? Good, yeah, all right. So yeah, the books are out there. I just love the written word. And I did get really recruited by the Libertarians about 6 years ago to run for governor of Virginia. And what was the surprise to me was that my family said it was okay. I figured they'd all just roll their eyes and, you know, that's stupid. But they said, you know, it's okay. We'll pick up the slack. We'll make it work. So anyway, I don't want to be, you know, a person is known as much by what you say no to as what you say yes to. And our mission statement is to develop economically, emotionally, and environmentally enhancing agricultural prototypes and facilitate their duplication throughout the world. And I'm not sure that an elected office facilitates that vision, that mission. I think it would pull me off of what that mission is. But I thank you for your confidence. I'm assuming you'd think you'd vote for me. So I am appreciating that. But
Out more though, we need some sort of.
You would be in charge of money that could maybe facilitate some of these.
I mean, I would be so radical. I mean, I can't imagine. I mean, I'll just throw out a couple things. I mean, can you imagine standing up and saying we shouldn't have any public education? Let's let it all go back to the states. And we can have 50 experiments. One state can say, I think it's the government's responsibility to pay for all children's education. Another state might say, you know what? We're going to cut taxes 50% and give all that money and let parents buy their education wherever they want to. And and then another state might say, well, we do think the public should have a vested interest in education, but we're not going to have it public. What we'll do is we'll give every parent of school-age children a voucher, and they can spend it wherever they want to. And if they want to send their kid to the atheist Vietnamese bow-legged school, they can send their kids to the atheist Vietnamese bow-legged school. And if they want to, you know, and spend it wherever they want to. And then what happens is you have the different states looking, well, look, you know, their teen suicide rate went down. Wow, they don't have to have any, they were able to close 9 out of 10 of their juvenile detention centers. Wow, wonder how they did that. And you start having, that was the idea of America, was the 50-state experiment. That was the idea. And I think one of the reasons that we've become such a partisan culture now is because we've taken all this stuff that was supposed to be localized and at a state level, and we've arrogated it to the federal to where it's a winner take all, and the stakes are too high. And if we brought it down to a 50-state deal, then the stakes are lower, and when the stakes are lower, you don't have to get as angry, you know, or as, you know, you can have a couple winning horses. It doesn't have to go all on one. And so I just see, you know, I would like to see the federal. I mean, because there are things at the local level. So I could be a socialist at the local level. If the local level wants to do something, you know, keep out Walmart or something, I'm okay with that. I mean, I'm pretty libertarian, but if a community wanted to do that, I'm okay with it. So, but that's different than something on a federal level, where it's a one-size-fits-all. Everybody has to do it whether they want to or not. And so, you know, what I would like to see is I would like to see the federal drop back down to basically the military and court system, and that's about it. And there would be no wage laws, no occupational safety, no EPA, no education association, no building inspection, no Social Security, no Medicare, no Obama. I mean, whew.
You're elected.
But let states do what they want. You know, let states do what they want. And if states want to be more or less, then they do it. But they don't. And all foreign aid would cease, and we'd bring all the military home, and we'd quit trying to build empires around the world, and we'd hoe our own garden and fix our own bridges, and yeah. Anyway, I just think that's unelectable, but I'm wrong. Okay. Thanks for your vote of confidence. I'll bring that up at executive committee next week. I will tell you this. I got a little inside track, though. How many of you know Congressman Thomas Massey from Kentucky? So whenever you see a vote in Congress that's 400 and how many people? 435 of them? Something like that. Whenever you see a vote that's 434 to 1, he's the one. And what nobody knows is, I'll tell you a little inside scoop here, he orchestrated the 12 congressman revolt, you know, that held up Kevin McCarthy's thing. Now, he's so smart, he stayed out of the media. He stayed in the background, but he was the one pulling doing the messaging, doing the, you know, say this, negotiate this, negotiate. He ran all the strings. And he's now, because of it, he's gotten from being, you know, the terrible person, he's now got some real power on 4 committees. And he just contacted me and he said, I'm working on a hearing to get you to Congress to debate Don Tyson. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. There's stuff going on, and we'll see. He's also crafted an amendment to the Constitution to go with the Bill of Rights that would give every American the freedom to choose the food of their choice from the source of their choice. And that right there, when people ask me, you know, if you were king for a day, what would you do? The first thing I would do is grant that freedom. I call it the Food Emancipation Proclamation. Because I'm sure in this room, if we started having testimonials, we'd have people say, well, I wanted to make, you know, chicken soup and sell it in the community, but the commercial kitchen was too expensive. They made me put in a septic tank, and I can't afford that. And the license for this and the license for that. I want to make bologna. I want to make, you know, canned, you know, tomato soup. And my position is, we live in a time where we've never had more interest in getting the government out of our bedrooms, our marriages, and our sexual identities. It's time to get them out of our mouths. Okay? So we've got momentum of let me live my life. Well, let me make my food choice. There are few things more intimate than the fuel I'm choosing to feed my body. What good is it to have the freedom to pray, shoot, and preach if I can't get the fuel from my body that I think it needs to go pray, preach, and shoot? So anyway, that's kind of, yeah, those sound bites, they might work. Okay. All right, another question. Yeah, yes.
So we have about 17 acres open land, and I'm a full-time construction worker. I would love to eventually have something at home. What would your, in a short way, advice be to me?
17 acres, and you want to come home full-time.
That's my dream.
Oh, 17 acres of open land? Okay. I knew we were going to use this. All right. Can y'all hear me? Yes, sir. All right. Because this is going in the video, so you can still hear on the video. Okay. All right. 17 acres. Now, a little bit of that's for the house, yard.
That's strictly field.
Strictly field. All right. 17 acres. Everybody got that? Let me grab one thing here. I might need this. The one thing you're never supposed to do in front of people in real time is math. So this is an exercise that I call fill it up. All right? And I love this. When I do consults, I do a lot of consulting now around the country, and this is kind of how I end a day of consulting. I do, let's imagine, fill it up. What that means is, what could we do? We got 17 acres to work with right here, okay? What could we do on 17 acres? All right.
Orchards.
What?
Orchards. Orchard.
Oh, okay, well, let me do my fill it up first. All right. When you do your show, you'll do orchard. All right. I'm going to do chickens. Okay. We run 600 broilers per acre. So we've got 10,000 broilers, okay, that are going to generate. We're going to do a gross income, but what we're going to assume on each one of these is that there's a 35% enterprise margin. I don't want to lose you here, all right? But the enterprise margin is direct costs. Is sale minus direct costs. Now that's not overall profit yet, because out of the enterprise margin you have to pay overheads. Overheads are things like insurance, the truck, the tractor, things that you would have whether you are doing any of these enterprises or not. Okay? Everybody with me? All right. So we're gonna do a gross income. When we're done, we'll do a 35% margin across the board, see if it'll cover our overheads. Now, when I'm giving you, all right, so here we go. 10,000 broilers, we're gonna sell them for 20 bucks a piece. That's $200,000. Okay? Now, those 17 acres, in your area here, there's no reason why you can't get, somebody that grows corn, what's a common bushels of corn here? How many? 14. Bushels of corn per acre? 150. Okay, so the rule of thumb, for those of you interested, the rule of thumb is every 100 bushels of corn is equivalent to 400 cow days of grass on that. In other words, land that will grow 100 bushel an acre corn will produce 400 cow day grass. I go over to Kankakee, Illinois. They do 200 a bushel of corn, 800 cow day grass. Are you with me? In other words, land that will grow that corn will grow this amount of grass for that. All right. So you're at 150. That's 600 cow days. 600 cow days, so 600 cow days times 17 acres is 10,200 cow equivalents divided by 365 is 27.9. So let's just for sake of discussion say, in other words, that means that we could run 28 cow equivalents as a rolling herd average on that acreage. Now, 28 cow equivalents can look like a bunch of different things. It can look like 56 500-pound stockers. It can look like 30 500-pound stockers and 20 900-pound finishers. Okay? So, I mean, we could drag this out all afternoon, but for sake of discussion, let's just take our our 28 cow equivalents, and we're going to say that that is going to allow us to sell 20 beeves a year. At $3,000 is $60,000. Okay? Now, we can easily do 1,000 turkeys. At $60 a piece is $60,000. We can easily do 17 acres. We can easily do 2 Millennium feather nets, 2,000 layers at 50% production on rolling flock average. That's 1,000 eggs a day divided by 12. All right, we'll say 80 dozen a day. 80 dozen a day times 365 days in a year. What are we going to sell them for? $6? 5? All right, we'll sell them about 5. All right, so that's $150,000.
Are these numbers in one of your books or online?
No, these numbers are not in the books. This is a customized thing for this gentleman right here.
Well, no, some of these numbers you're throwing out are could work anywhere.
Yeah, right. Well, some of them can work anywhere. You wouldn't be able to do this kind of beef if this was asked if this was Nevada. We wouldn't be able to do the beef, but we could do the broilers, the turkeys, and the layers. Okay? All right. Now, we can have a yard of bees, 20 hives, each yielding $300 worth of honey. So a yard of bees. We can have 200 ducks for eggs. They're going to lay 8 dozen a day, rolling herd, flock times, and we're going to sell those for $8 a dozen. So there's 24,000. Okay. Now, there's no reason why we can't, along with this, like around the field edges and stuff especially, we can plant on 17 acres in a perimeter. There's no reason why we couldn't have 100 apple trees.
I can run chickens under my apple tree.
Absolutely. We're going to have 100 apple trees. And how many bushels of apples you want to get off these apple trees? 10 bushels per apple tree? 5? 5 bushels? 5 bushels. So that's 500 bushels, and we're going to sell those for $25 a bushel. That's 12,500. Okay. I can stop there, but I hope you're appreciating that our margin here is trying to think what I want to do here. Yeah. Okay. Our margin here is, our enterprise margin is, we're going to run a straight 35%.
What does enterprise margin mean?
Enterprise margin is we've paid for labor, feed, chicks, all the direct costs, hay, and this is what's left over from the enterprise, but it's not profit because this has to go to overhead. Okay? I'm rounding some of these. I'm not going to. Okay. So what we're left with is 70 plus 42 plus 52 plus 2 . $178,000. Did I do that right? You're not supposed to do math in real time in front of people. $178,000 that's going to pay mortgage, your family living expenses, the vehicle, tractor, machinery, infrastructure, barn, build the barn, okay, or whatever, whatever you're gonna have. Well, no, vet is taken up here. This is, all the expenses are in here, okay? All right. What I'm getting at is this enough to make it? It sure is. It sure is. Our weak link, folks, is not money. It's not resources. Our weak link is imagination. As Daniel says, our weak link is constipation of imagination. That's our problem. So I love doing these kind of processes because they get you where you can go. So I mean, on our this is absolutely based on what we do. Notice I didn't put any pigs in here because I don't want to run pigs where the chickens are. They're going to make divots and they're going to mess up the pasture. Now, if you want to raise some pigs, you got enough money, you can build a pole shed, do deep bedding, and have some. If your customers want pigs, look, from a marketing standpoint, you want to have as much variety as possible so that you take your existing customers, and from a marketing standpoint, the hardest thing to do is to get a new customer. I don't care whether you're doing a website shopping cart, a roadside stand, an on-farm store, or a farmer's market, whatever it is. The weak link in marketing is getting busy, frenzied, hurried, harried people to stop and look. That's the hard part. Once they've stopped and looked, if they buy, you know what their first question is? If they're happy, what else you got? Exactly, what else you got? Okay? So that's why you want to immediately start down a path of being able to be a one-stop shop, to be able to offer people, and that includes, I'll get to you, that includes then collaborating with neighbors and people. We collaborate with a dozen people. We work with a little organic grass-based A2 dairy. We sell their milk, chocolate milk. I mean, it's like, whoa, and it's all pronounceable. It's great stuff. Kids. I mean, we listen, man. If we want a youth addiction in this country, it ain't fentanyl. It's our chocolate milk. Let me tell you. I mean, that is addictable, and it's great. Cheese, ferments, kimchi, sauerkraut, kombucha, heavy stews, beef stew, chicken broth, chicken stock, cosmetics, homemade pasta. Lady uses our eggs. Pet food, pet treats from chicken necks, chicken log, turkey necks. I mean, a turkey neck makes a great big chew for a dog. And people in America are ready, they are happy to spend 3 times as much on their pets as their kids. They're way more concerned about vet bills than doctor bills. You know, I mean, what the vets need to be doing is asking for Obamacare for dogs. That would be the biggest boon they could ever imagine for the vet care industry. Yes, sir. You've been patient. Yeah, no, behind you. Yes, sir.
How many people does it take to make
How many people will this take to run? This would take one person. Preferably husband, wife. That'd be the ideal. So I'll go move the chickens, you put away the eggs. But one person. See, I've already got your job worked out. Mom, isn't that cool? Isn't that cool? Yeah. See, you just asked me. I'll keep you busy. No problem. I'll make it work. I'll make it work. You need a chore list? You ready to go? Yeah. So, yeah, efficiency. I mean, benchmarks. This would be a hustle for one person, and one person wouldn't want to do it more than a couple years. I mean, that would be. But you don't need to be at this scale to start either. I mean, you could do a third of this, and probably, get going. But yeah, it doesn't take very many people. Yes, ma'am.
Does this include like processing? Do you have to have a relationship with a processor, or do you have to bring it back to the farm?
Okay, processing. Yeah, processing. One of the keys to this is you're doing the processing. You're not taking it to a processor. That's where the money is.
Right. Does that include like infrastructure though? I mean, I'm still struggling with how that would be, how you legally do it.
You mean how you buy the infrastructure?
Well, how you legally.
Oh, legally?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I'm not here to talk about legal.
Joel, what's the name of your book about legally?
Yeah, I wrote a book, Everything I Want to Do is Illegal. You probably know that. Let's talk about the legal thing just for a minute, okay? Yeah, because that really does become the tail that wags the dog in this. I mean, absolutely. All right. So first of all, remember this. If you push the envelope, you're not going to be fined and you're not going to go to jail on your first encounter with the bureaucracy. Okay? Now, I mean, this is, okay, it's funny, but it's also very, I want you to be encouraged, okay? I don't know anybody who ever got slapped with a fine the first visit from a bureaucrat. What they tell you is, ma'am, you can't do this, okay? And they expect you to bow and everything will be fine, all right? My point is that when we did this, we were illegal for years. I was so naive, I mean, we're going back, 40 years. I was so naive, it never crossed my mind that this could be illegal. What? You mean if a neighbor comes and wants a chicken, I can't raise a chicken, butcher a chicken, and sell it to a neighbor? I mean, I'm sorry. That's how naive I was. I just didn't, it never crossed my mind that somebody would come and tell me that's illegal. So we just did it. Innocently, truly innocently. We're a lot smarter now, and naively, and we finally got a visit when we were up into the 12,000 bird level. Okay, and we had a battle, but it's always a political battle. It's not a battle about food safety. It's a political battle. And so we immediately called our congressman, our senator, our state delegate, we got all them involved, and we won. The truth is the bureaucracy is not used to people not bowing. They're used to saying, yes, what must I do to be saved? They're used to that. And I'll never, again, everything I want to do is illegal. Tells you the story, but when they came out and told us that we had to quit, I had been prepped for that wonderfully. The week before, we were eating supper. Somebody knocked on the front door. I went up, what's this? And here's a guy standing there. He's about 50, and he's got his wife in his arms. He's holding her like a baby. She's like 90 pounds. He says, the doctors say my wife is going to die if she doesn't get hormone-free meat. Can you help me? I said, yes, sir, we will help you. And that lady became one of our most loyal customers. She actually outlived her husband by 20 years. But that's another story. But the very next week, we had our big showdown with the bureaucrats. And they're standing there telling us that outdoor processing is illegal. I just looked at them and I told them about this guy that showed up at the door the week before with his wife in his arms. And I looked at those guys, I said, you can either let her live or not. She's going to get our food. Take me to jail, that's fine. She's going to be helped. It's your call. And that changed the conversation because suddenly they had accountability. They understood that there was more there. You see, if you want to get me up on my hind legs, you just tell me I'm just doing my job. Man, that's the worst thing. That's what the Nazis said when they pushed the gas chamber, just doing my job. What does it mean? You left your heart and your head somewhere else? Don't tell me you're just doing your job. And so we have, now we could get a visit tomorrow and be in trouble, but we push it. And we're known as the junkyard dog. And after one showdown where they impounded a bunch of beef, the guy came in when it was done, and after we won, again, we got our politicians involved. They went to bat for us. There's only one entity that the bureaucrats fear. That's your elected politicians, because they hold the purse strings. They don't fear you. So let me give you a couple of tips when you get the visit.
Here it comes.
Yeah. Satan just came in the window.
That was the Holy Spirit.
Oh, that was the Holy Spirit. Okay. All right. Are we bugged here? I don't know. So let me give you a couple of tips for when you get the visit. And let me tell you, there's humor here, but I'm telling you what, it is not a funny matter. When that guy shows up on your door with that big bronze badge like the FBI, I'm from, your color drains, your feet go, it's like worse than being sent to the principal's office. It's not good, especially when this is your livelihood, and this is the whole thing. So, a couple things. Number one, you do not have to speak to anybody. Don't speak to anybody. Don't show them around. Don't say hi. Don't say here. Don't say nothing. Everything is in writing. Everything is in writing, and that will slow everything down to a year. Because they know if they have to put something in writing, that's actually legal. That's legally binding. They're going to have to run that by their superiors. Their superiors will run it by the Attorney General's office. The Attorney General's office runs through a battery of attorneys, and it finally circles around after a year and comes back. Okay? That's number one. Never speak to them. Okay? Now, you can be smiling, but you don't speak, because you'll get yourself in trouble really quick.
What do you
Okay.
say?
What do you say?
To them when they come.
We don't speak to you. If you have something, send it to me in writing. That's it. That's all you say. Send it to me in writing, close the door. Now, if they want to come back with a warrant, they won't. But if they want to, then, you deal with that. But, then they've got to go back and they've got to write up something. And they got to work for this. Don't make it easy. Don't make it easy.
They
Okay.
might pose as a customer asking to see your, they have done that to us. They
Uh-huh.
pose as a customer and ask for a tour.
Pose as a customer and ask for a tour. Yeah. Well, you can usually kind of sniff that out. You can usually, if your radar's up, you can sniff that out. I got to tell you this. I ran into a guy in Alabama. He's a construction guy, and so he's always got these OSHA people showing up at his construction sites. Here's what he does. I mean, this is just great. He says, guy shows up. I'm here to look at your, electrical cords and da-da-da, OSHA. He says, I need to verify your credentials. Are you actually? And of course, they gave him a business card. He said, business, with, special agent so and so, OSHA. What? Anybody can print a business card. This is no ID. You could be a bum off the street and go in and print business cards. I need a very, actual ID. Well, the guy's kind of, taken aback a little bit. See, this puts him a little bit on his back foot, but he, grudgingly reaches in. All right. He pulls out his driver's license, hand it to him. Hi, Jim from 43 Essex Drive. Jim from 43 Essex Drive. Nice to meet you, Jim from 43 Essex Drive. I bet you live in a nice community at 43 Essex Drive. Jim, 43 Essex Drive. What would you like to talk about today, Jim, at 43 Essex Drive? By that time, the guy knows he's going to come at night and blow up his car, right? I just love it, because it's just, it's intimidating, and that's good. Anyway, we're back to this. Okay, so don't speak. Everything's in writing. Okay. And if they request a meeting, you don't go. All right. Here's the next thing. Remember that like has to talk to like. Think about the military. If I'm a lieutenant and I'm surrendering to an enemy, I don't surrender to a private. I say, we're going to surrender, send me a lieutenant. Lieutenant sit down and I surrender to a lieutenant. Or if you're discussing a treaty, a private doesn't talk to a general. Civil War, who came? Lee and Grant. It wasn't, Grant and A.P. Hill. Okay, it was Lee and Grant. All right, equal. This is an important principle. You are a peasant. You don't have the status to talk to the state, which has the whole power of the Attorney General's office behind them. So if there's going to be a discussion, you want an attorney to handle that conversation. And suddenly, they're on a different plateau. I'll give you an example. So we got a panic call from one of our restaurant chefs one time. Health department just came in and threw out all your eggs. They said they're illegal. We were servicing 50 restaurants at the time. If they're illegal in this restaurant, they're obviously illegal in the other 49. I said, give me the name and the name of the code violation. So he had her card there. He gave me the name and the code violation. Hung up the phone. I called Pete Kennedy at Farm and Consumer Legal Defense Fund, and gave him the name of the bureaucrat, the health department official, the name of the code violation. He said, okay, I'll handle it. 24 hours later, we had a written apology from the health department we were right, they were wrong. This was a new person that didn't understand the law and had overstepped her bounds. Now, how long do you think it would have taken me, a poor dumb farmer, to get that concession from the state? You know, we're 15 years from that and we'd still be working with it. So like has to deal with like. Don't think you're smarter. Trust me, don't think you're smarter than these guys. Okay? You're gonna talk yourself into a corner, get into a trouble. So like has to deal with like. Okay? And then all that being said, then when there is something, pack it with your customers. Make it a public deal. Okay? Make it a public deal and pack it with your customers. And what?
What do you mean by that?
I mean, whenever there's a discussion, bring 5 or 6 of your customers along to the meeting. Okay? So they know that it's not just them against one, it's them against something else. And especially when we've had we've had our attorney plus our delegate, our senator. Let me tell you, they do some backing up when you have that kind of thing. We had this great big discussion in the living room, you know, and they showed up, the federal and the state top guys, the federal guy from Philadelphia, the state guy who was number 1 in the state, meeting poultry inspection. And they were early, and I went out and said, you know, you're early. They said, yeah. I said, well, you can just wait in the car until the time. And when it came time, I went out and got them, said, you can come in now. And we had the gallery set up we homeschool. So I had them meet the kids and said, okay, we're here. This is part of our homeschooling to see how the government is here to help us. And of course our delegate, you know, our delegate was there, and our attorney. And by the time they got to the living room to sit down to have the discussion, they were on eggshells. In other words, they realized they were on our turf, we weren't on theirs. And so there are things you can do to move this forward. Now, all that being said, the Rogue Food Conference movement, which John Moody and I started 4 years ago, is all about circumvention. How do we just make an end run around this stuff? And we are highlighting, putting on stage people who have figured out ways to circumvent these insane food safety laws. Because they're not about food safety. They're about market access. And what gives them legal authority, what gives the government legal authority, is when something travels, this is key, in commerce. In commerce. Okay? In other words, let's take raw milk. You can give raw milk away, right? That's fine. We just had a bunch of it here. Okay, you can give it away, that's perfectly legal. But if you leave a nickel for one of those glasses, guess what? Not you, they have become a criminal. So you can buy it. If you can acquire it, it's fine. The prohibition is only on the sale. It's not on the purchase, which is opposite all hazardous substances. Cocaine, fentanyl, all this stuff, if it's a hazardous substance, the prohibition is on both buyer and seller. You can't have it, you can't sell it, you can't buy it. But on food, all the prohibitions are only on the seller. They're not on the buyer. So it's really not about hazardous stuff. It's really about who has access to the market. So the key is, can we figure out a way to have a transaction that doesn't fit the definition of commerce? Okay? So, there are all sorts of cool things coming up. Some of you are familiar with Amos Miller in Pennsylvania, who's now the point man to adjudicate the Private Membership Association. Private Membership Association is right now kind of the point of the innovative spear in this place, and that's modeled after the country club. The country club golf club started private membership associations years ago. Primarily, it was a racial thing. so they wouldn't adhere to the civil rights code, say we're not public, we're private, so we can exclude anybody we want to. All right? And what's happened is it even excludes them. They don't have to adhere to the American Disabilities Act. They don't have to have handicap ramps. They don't have to have anything. Private membership associations, PMAs. So what's happened in the last 8 years or so is that numerous people have said, yeah, I wonder if we could take the PMA platform and apply it to food. Can we have a PMA food? We're not going to play golf. We're going to play food. Okay? And so that's what's happened. And it is moving quickly. So the beauty of it, so your customer joins the private club, and one of the perks is they get to get dividends, which are unregulated food. John Moody runs a big thing down in Louisville, Kentucky. He's got a storefront with several hundred families selling everything illegal you can imagine. I mean, it's illegal as sin. And the state can't touch him because it's a private membership. People pay $150 investments, and they get their investment gets debited so that it's not a sale, it's an investment with a dividend, which doesn't come under the commerce. Are you with me? So there's a guy we featured a guy in, where was he? In Oregon, I think, or no, Seattle, near Seattle. And what he did, he figured out that he could have you can butcher your own animal. So he has a deal where he butchers the animal, he keeps the guts, and the customer gets the meat. And so he can butcher his own animal. There's a lady in Michigan, you can butcher an animal on your own property. So she rents 10-foot by 10-foot pieces of pasture to her customer and processes their beef on their rented land. So the beef is processed on their land. Nithi Bali in North Carolina has started a food church, a 501c3 food church. Your membership authorizes the perk of being able to participate in the food church. And the state hates her. They park out of her door. They ramp, and she's a little 5-foot dot Indian, not feather Indian, India, Nithi Bali. And I mean, she is a whirlwind. She doesn't take no lip. I mean, tell you, she's just, you have no jurisdiction here. You have no, and sometimes there's six government cars parked out there. She just walks right through them. You have no jurisdiction here. I mean, it's just fantastic. So, there are some really neat, creative things going on that we're trying to highlight to just empower people, encourage people, so you're not intimidated. Okay, it's time to quit being intimidated, and it's time to just move forward. Okay, yes.
So when you mentioned the club concept, what's the difference between that and like Sam's Club? What are you gaining joining their club, because it seems like a regular store? Just so you can go in there early or whatever.
Yeah, you're starting to ask questions above my pay grade. Sam's Club. Let's see.
I'm just wondering the similarities between having a private club, private members only,
Yeah.
and a members-driven club.
I don't know what the difference is. There is a difference, because Sam's Club is not a PMA. It's a corporation. Sam's Club, anybody can go in. Anybody can go in. We're over my pay grade. I need to just stop. I don't need to answer that. I will tell you that Michael Kilpatrick, who's probably the leader in this in the country, he told me that that, and this really intrigued me, that we could act, because I've always wanted to open a diner. I want to open a diner that competes with McDonald's. I mean, head to head. Let's have an authentic, GMO-free, grass-based burger joint next to every McDonald's in the country. You know, just and so he said that you could actually have a PMA burger joint. Everybody walks in, pays a $1 membership, and they get to enjoy the rights of a non-public. In other words, you have a big sign, this is not a public establishment, for members only. Now, you can join right here a foot inside the door if you want to, okay? But you can't order, you can't buy any, all right, this is for private members only. And he says that you could eliminate all health department, food safety regulations, workman's comp, his PMA, his employees are missionaries working in the mission of clean food. And so they pay no taxes, no FICA, no workman's comp. I mean, folks, there's some really creative people out here. And I wish I had time to drill down in all these. I just feel inadequate to drill down in all of them. But I will tell you this, that there are people smarter than me, that this is their, I mean, I can't be an expert on everything is what I'm getting at, all right? But there are people that this is their life. Like right now, Michael says he can hook me up with 2 attorneys that for $20,000, all right, now that's not pennies, but it's not exorbitant. For $20,000, they will do the entire PMA agreement, set up the deal, and the templates for our members to sign. I am heading that direction. We're getting together meat saws, grinders, the personnel. I want to have a Polyface, whatever, affiliate. It'll have to be a separate business, separate bank account, separate everything, but have a PMA. Because here's the thing, we've got people. A guy drove in the parking lot the other day. He said, "Where can I buy food insurance?" I said, "Food insurance? Food insurance? Never heard food. Everybody heard food insurance?" He said, "We're a group of 200 families over in Charlottesville. We think the wheels are going to fall off, and we want to get food insurance so when the wheels fall off, we can be sure we can get food." And that kind of got my wheels spinning, and so there's a lot. Again, remember I said the wasps on the wasp nest? This is indicative of the And so I'm trying to think, how do we respond to this? As the context changes and the culture moves, how do you respond to this? How do you service to this? Because look, all of us right here, if I said take out a piece of paper and make a list of all the things you're frustrated and angry about, we could all make a list. No? Right? We could all make a list. Here's the thing. You can't be happy and satisfied. You can't be you if that's all you see every day. What you have to do is take that list, turn it upside down, say, how am I going to respond to this so that proactively I can offer hope and help when society is hopeless and helpless. That's where our energy needs to go. Because we can be mad about a lot of things, but what sustains and what creates legacy is actually being positive about the solutions. That's where we need to be. And so I'm just trying to respond to this thing. I just feel it. I hear it. People are coming. And how do we respond to this? So we're actually really, I should say I am. See, when I come here, y'all think I'm really smart. When I go home, there's Dad, no crazy ideas, Why do you have kids? So they can roll their eyes at you? Okay, so I'm really dedicated to trying to figure out how to move forward with some of these alternative things. But there are a lot of great minds that are already dealing with this. Another question, way in the back.
So I just had a question
Now I can.
It's a 30-acre farm that's been on a rotational crop with corn and soy. And I'm just curious, if we were to, try to restore that farm and that land, what are some of the initial steps that we might take to start bringing the soil life back to the...
Okay, you've got 30 acres of former cropland. You want to turn it into pasture. What are the ABCD steps to make that happen?
Yeah, and also approximately how long would you say that it might take to restore that?
All right, and then the second part is how long will it take? Well, it all depends on how much you're willing, how aggressive you're willing to be with remediation, okay? Because everything starts from a different place. I think this is one of the most important things to remember as we start to try to heal land, is that every piece of property has a different level of handicap. So imagine you're at a race. Okay, you're going to run the 100-yard dash. Okay. These two runners, one guy's got a broken leg, one guy's got a broken arm. Okay, they both have a handicap, but the guy with a broken arm is probably going to beat the guy with a broken leg. Are you with me? And if you wanted to get both of those people well before the race, the recipe and time for wellness would be different between the guy with a broken arm and the guy with a broken leg. Are you with me? And this is something I think that we miss a lot of times when we start talking about healing land, is that we don't understand, we don't appreciate that every piece of land is coming from a different place of handicap. For example, a worn out pasture that hasn't been plowed for 20 years and is just kind of, unfertile and worn out, that's a very different starting point than cropland that's barren, that's had glyphosate and corn and soybeans on it for 20 years. There's a totally different handicap there to get started. So for yours, the cheapest way to get going is not to plow it. There's probably latent fertility there. If it was cropland, usually there's latent fertility, and of course around here, your land around here is relatively fertile. I mean, compared to where we are, because remember, you haven't been abused for 100 years. We've been abused 100 years longer than you have. So the easiest way to plant is to get a cocktail. I'm a big believer in cocktails. So 8 to 10 different varieties of seeds, plants, some legumes, grasses, even some some forbs, sweet clover, something with some long tap roots to try to break up. You could even put in some beets or something. Anyway, a cocktail, and the easy way to plant that is simply to spin on the seed, cut a couple tree tops, and drag it across the top, just enough to disturb the soil. Okay, we've planted crop fields like that, and of course we need to hook up with a local chiropractor on a commission for all the people that throw their necks out of joint. What are they doing now? What are they doing now? We provide that entertainment in the community, and there's a reason. But you just drag these. You can. We've hooked it to the back of a pickup truck, and somebody sits back there with a little cyclone seeder and spinning on seed, and you're pulling these treetops along. The dust is flying, and all the cars are wrecking on the road, looking at what you're doing. But that's a real cheap, effective way to plant pretty open crop ground. Okay. Now, once you get that planted, then you're not going to want to put anything on it for most of the season till it gets a little bit of strength to it. But then the key is controlled grazing. Okay, you're going to want to start putting animals on it and moving them every single day, so that you get this patchwork quilt, and you start getting those root exudates into the soil because you get root penetration from the grazing. Okay, and so that's the way now. What else can you do? Well, obviously nothing brings on grass like chickens. Chickens and grass, just, they're magic. Obviously, if you can get some compost, if you get any extra carbon, leaves, old rotted bark, any kind of carbon you can put on there to help stimulate it, to get some carbon on there is good as well. Okay? All right, question, yes?
I run a beef operation in Michigan, and this question is related to that. So one, this is kind of a play off the question that just came. For wintering cattle, you detail using a pigerator in an enclosure to build compost during the winter time when you're feeding hay. My operation doesn't have that type of infrastructure yet. So what have you seen that's worked well for wintering cattle, whether it be unrolling bales, like you see, like Greg Beauty does that, or doing bale grazing? Is there one of those methods that you prefer? And then the second question, for spreading compost that's mixed with wood chips, have you seen a reduction of pH that's higher than normal because of those wood chips?
Okay, the question is, don't have a pole shed to do the carbonaceous diaper yet. So what's the most efficient way to feed hay? And then does the wood chip compost sour the soil due to the wood product? All right, good questions. Okay, so yeah, I'm a big believer in if you've got a feed out on the ground, roll it out. Don't use a round bale feeder and just have them buck that up. Get that spread as far as you can. Make sure you don't put it in a valley. Always put it on a slope. The valley's already fertile anyway. So you want to get anything that you put on, you want to put it on a slope where gravity can, you got plenty of room before it gets to the valley to get anything down. So yeah, that's for sure. But I can tell you that in NPK alone, the feeding shed will pay for itself in a couple of years. It's pretty dramatic. And if you're not familiar with that, we use just a pole shed. We feed in there, and we use wood chips as a carbonaceous diaper to soak up the manure and urine, and it just builds and builds and builds. We add corn to it. It's anaerobic because the cows are trumping out the oxygen. So their weight, they're pushing out the oxygen. It's fermenting. In fact, you can dig into it. It smells like silage. So corn ferments. When the cows come out to start grazing in the spring, we put in the pigs. The pigs seek the fermented corn, aerate it, and turn it into aerobic compost. And then that's what we spread on the fields. Now, does that aerobic compost then sour down the soil due to the wood chips? Here's the thing about wood chips. It's all about the size. So probably many of you have heard, experts say, well, you can't put, sawdust on the soil, it'll make it sour because it'll pull the nitrogen out, The reason that sawdust does that is because the sawdust is such tiny pieces. Think about the size of the table. The sawdust, the particles are so small that it allows a lot of microbes to get around each piece of carbon, and it all of that activity actually creates infertility short term as it sucks all of that feed out of the soil to have all that microbial activity because the particles are so small. Wood chips, on the other hand, the pieces are big enough that not that many microbes can get around it relative to sawdust. And so the dead bodies of the microbes supply the nitrogen as fast as the decomposition is occurring because it happens slower. Okay? So it's all about the speed of the carbon breakdown. And so the wood chips, no, they don't. In fact, you can put on raw wood chips and it won't change the pH because the decomposition is slow enough for the microbes to supply their own deficiency as they digest. Okay? Great question. Another question. Yes, ma'am. Or yes, sir. Yeah. Your hand, I couldn't see which hand it was. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, the lady with the beard. Yeah. Okay.
So, we live about 5 miles away from East Palestine. I heard your podcast that you were doing. We got a lot of smoke and stuff coming all around that area, and I was just wondering how you would deal with that in the coming time.
Smoke from, what's the smoke from?
That train burn.
Oh, the train derailment.
There in East Palestine. We're about 5 miles away from
Oh, you're about 5 miles away from where the train derailed. Upwind or downwind?
Well, typically downwind, but it shifted for us. It came straight to us. It blacked out our entire property where you couldn't really see.
Huh.
So, I mean, just wondering how you would approach that.
Yeah, so have you had any physical, like, have you had any of this, you know, whatever, nausea, asthma type stuff?
Yeah.
You have had?
Yeah.
Pretty toxic stuff.
I worked right by the tracks. So, like,
Wow.
we were going to work there right where they were cutting the trains up. Yeah, skin started blowing off my hand.
Man, well, my heart breaks for you. You know, and I don't have solutions. You know, these kind of things in life sometimes they happen, and you know, fortunately, time will fix a lot. It won't be acute forever, but generally the water's going to the Ohio River. Generally, the air is heading east normally. And as far as your land is concerned, again, it's all about carbon. Carbon is the number one detoxicant. It's like the Alka-Seltzer, bufferant of nature, carbon. And so you get your organic matter up, get your biology up, get your microbial community up. That's the best you can do as far as keeping your land, you know, your land detoxified. That's your main thing. Yeah. So a lot of mulch, like if your garden, lots of mulch. Are you familiar with the Paul Gauci Back to Eden system with the 12 inches of wood chips mulch? That has some traction, and I think especially in your case, it would be a great thing.
What would you think about, like, with the grazing and stuff? Would that be...
Grazing?
Should we try to get some wood chips down?
No. I think with the just make sure you're doing a great job of grazing. Maybe graze the grass a little taller. You know, let it get a little taller, and make sure those cows are getting kelp as a mineral. Again, that's gonna keep their immune system up. I mean, you need to build that immune system, and make sure they're getting, you know, like salt, Redmond salt, or C29, you know, a good salt, not just regular white iodized salt, but really good. Really keep their minerals up, because stressed animals go for mineral. Mineral is another one of those metabolic things that make a big difference in the immunological function. Okay, good. Yes, ma'am.
I just want to say this because I live downwind from East Palestine or whatever it's called, and I just have to say that I would highly recommend that you use the charcoal filter, a really good charcoal filter.
She's saying use a charcoal filter for your water, a good quality charcoal filter for your water. Charcoal is, again, carbon. Yeah. That's good. Question here, yes, ma'am.
My husband retires from 40 years military service in 10 months, and we're looking to buy land like 1,000 foot elevation down in southern Ohio, lots of trees, like bees, chickens, can't think of it, Scottish Highland cows. He just wants to hunt and do what he wants from now on. But I want to be self-sustaining and give classes. And I mean, we're looking at like 50 acres at least.
Yeah, so we got 50 acres. Husband's retiring from his service in the military. Thank you for your service. And he just wants to play, and you want to eat. And he's not here today. He's in the military. Yeah. Well, I'm not here to do marriage counseling.
He's good with the chickens and the cows and bees. He
Uh-huh.
wants to get bees. He wants to do this stuff. But I want him to relax. I don't want him to have to hustle anymore.
You don't want him to have to hustle anymore?
I mean,
What do you want to do, bury him?
I told him by his
I'd say, man, you're retired. Get your rear out of bed and get going, buddy. We got a new agenda here. You got a new colonel commander here. It's me. Get rolling.
I tried that. So we had to compromise. I said, buy us kids with all the toys on it and a dump truck, and the world is your sandbox. Hire yourself out. But also use it on our property. But what do you think? All trees and high elevation and some big rock outcroppings and a creek, and I mean, I know there's good things we can do with that.
Yeah, so is the whole 50 acres trees?
Pretty much.
Pretty much. Okay, well, chainsaws work.
I said lots of firewood,
Yeah,
lots of chips.
yeah, absolutely. There's certainly forested land is cheap, and so it's a lot cheaper than open land. But we've certainly opened acreage over the years, and I love bandsaw mills. Sawmills are fantastic, and they're not that expensive. In my view, if you're looking at equipment, the first thing is a four-wheel drive tractor with a front-end loader on it. And if is this raw land? Does it have a house on it? You're going to build a house? Then get a sawmill, mill your own lumber, and build your house. And the sawmill will cost you $10,000. It'll save you $50,000 in lumber, and you'll have the satisfaction of using your own lumber, building your own house, and he'll have plenty to do for a while. And if you're just trying to feed yourself, an acre or two of open ground is plenty.
He wants in the middle of a lot of acres. He doesn't want people around it.
You don't want people around. Well, I didn't say anything about people. I said open land.
Yeah, but
Oh, people are going to come with open land?
Well-
You're going to plant people?
no. I thought you meant just buy an acre or two. But no, he wants lots of land so we can live in the middle of it.
Yeah. Well, 50 acres is plenty to get lost in. Yeah, I mean, you can have him build his doghouse over, the slope. But it doesn't take much land to feed yourself. If you've got an acre, you can run your 50 broilers and a little flock of layers and a nice big garden and a couple beehives, and an acre is plenty to feed yourself. And then look, don't stress. Don't have a 10-year plan. Just have a 6-month plan, and do what makes sense. 6 months. 6 months, you'll know a lot more, and then you can make. I think people we put too much on ourselves sometimes. We look too far out the road. How many people are doing exactly what you expected to do when you graduated from high school? Almost nobody, right? Life, it twists and turns, and you get forks in the road, and so. I think these 10, 20-year plans are just, they put too big a burden on us, just think out there a few months, what can I do? And you start there, and in 10 years will be the accumulation of a lot of little 6-month increments done right. And that will free you up from this burden of, oh no, I've got to, do this to do that. No, just look at what you can do for 6, 12 months and work on that one piece at a time. Sounds like a beautiful property to me. I mean, you got trees, rocks, trees again, creek. Well, what's there not to love? Sounds great. Yeah, some rolling land. Yes, sir.
In your area, do you see other farms taking your influence? Do you see a lot of farms changing over? And do you find it maybe easier to do things now than you could 10 years ago?
The question is, in our area, do we see farms starting to adopt these principles? And is it easier now than it was 10 years ago? The answer is pretty easy, no. They're not adopting. They call us bioterrorists. They call us Typhoid Mary. They say that our negligence to not vaccinate the cows and have chickens that rub beaks with red-winged blackbirds is going to bring avian influenza to their farms, and they're going to lose their 6th-generation farm because we're so irresponsible. And so, no, it's not any easier. And when you start reading the official government responses to problems, like avian influenza, hoof and mouth, these kinds of things, communicable diseases, it's pretty draconian. I mean, like in Virginia, I think the policy is if anybody gets hoof and mouth disease, of course this was big back when hoof and mouth was big, in England, remember, whatever it was, 15 years ago. But if a farm has hoof and mouth, they will come in and basically draw a radius around that farm of 5 miles and destroy every cow within 5 miles of that farm. No recourse, no warrant, no nothing, because you realize now in the official USDA writings, they don't talk about your cows, your sheep, your chickens. It's the national herd, the national flock. They don't use individual ownership words. It's all nationalized. That's the way it is in the mentality. You don't own your cows, they're part of the national herd. You don't own your chickens, they're part of the national flock. It's a real aggressive but subtle terminology to start changing the mentality of people. I mean, why do you think the USDA just ordered several thousand AK-47s or AK-15s? I don't even know enough about them to say what they are. But anyway, guns. Why do U.S. DA agent need guns? I don't know. And I'm not a tinfoil hat. I just see patterns. And it's this is why we're this is why that's kind of thinking about that. As far as is it easier? I think the answer to that is yes, because we have the technology that we didn't have 10, 20 years ago. I mean, electric netting, electric fencing, solar energizers. I mean, the fact that now we can, we can control everything without any electricity now. That's kind of cool with solar energizers. That's pretty neat, okay? So we've had some really neat technological breakthroughs that have made the whole production thing, a little bit easier. And certainly processing equipment is cheaper. When we started, 45 years ago, there was the Pickwick Company was making 12 tub feather pickers a year. 12 a year. Now there are 12 companies, each making 1,000 a year. Dave Schaefer, the Featherman Plucker guy, that tells me, his dream is we'll have food security when we have as many backyard chicken pickers as lawnmowers. And I love that. I mean, I'm just thinking about that idea. Imagine if everybody had a lawnmower, had a chicken picker. That'd be pretty cool. And he's right. That would change food security, wouldn't it? Yeah. Wouldn't it? If we had as many chicken pickers, backyard models, not great big, just little backyard as we have lawnmowers. Another question. Yes, ma'am.
So, as we're thinking about our customer base, because we're doing pastured poultry and processing them ourselves, how do you grow that customer base without going to a farmer's market?
How do you grow the customer's base without going to farmer's market? Oh my, you would ask a big question, wouldn't you? How do you grow a customer base without going to farmer's market? Okay. Dave Ramsey says, now listen, I know it's a little after 3. We're going to be done at 4. Is that right? Do we want to take a break, or we just want to burrow on through and? Okay, keep going. Okay. It just kind of the time slipped by, and suddenly I realized, we kind of passed a break, and anyway, all right. So we'll just go on. We'll get as much in as we can. All right. So how do you grow it without going to farmer's market? Dave Ramsey says, you tend to be successful at what you put attention on. So what a lot of people don't know is marketing is as hard or harder than production.
That's what we're finding.
That's what you're finding. I mean, I run into people all the time, hey, to grow chickens, all I got to do is call the hatchery. Chicks come, man, production's no problem. Oh no, what am I going to do with, or these eggs or whatever. So you're asking a pretty generic, big marketing question. So let me answer it this way. I'm starting by saying you've got to put attention on it. Marketing won't happen by osmosis. I know Kevin Costner did a movie, You Build It, They Will Come. You know what? That only happens in the movies. It's the biggest lie in the world. You build it and you go bankrupt because they don't come. Okay? That's the truth. And so you have to eat, sleep, and drink marketing. Okay? And for us, if you ask me today, right now, at Polyface, what's your weak link? Marketing. Marketing. Same, highly successful farms, marketing. We could double tomorrow with our current tractors and land and infrastructure. Punching into the market is not easy. So how do you message? All right. So here's the biggest thing that I can say, and it's the hardest for me. I'm not like our customers. I love our customers. Don't get me, love them. Okay. But I'm not like them. I get up in the country. There's no sirens. There's no paved roads. There's no traffic lights. I'm not scurrying around to get to work. I'm at work. I step out the back porch. I'm already at work. I don't have, and I have a fair amount of knowledge about how to grow food, how to preserve food, how to do all this stuff with food. Our customer, she, and all of our customers are she's. He's just, they open the refrigerator and say, honey, I can't find it. That's the only thing that men do. So all our customers are women, okay? And so, what's our customer interested in? First of all, she wants safe food. Second, she wants to confidently know that she is taking care of her kids' health, that she's getting good food. And the third thing, and I'm not doing these in order. These are jumbled. There's no order. I just have to present them one at a time. Convenience. Convenience. I just was at the APAPAPA conference in Texas, the American Pastured Poultry Producers Association. One of the other speakers was one of these marketing gals that does all these customer surveys, and it was fascinating. I eat that stuff up, and she had this thing that I just couldn't believe it. She said today, 40% of customers want to subscribe. They want to be a subscription service. I don't want to subscribe to anything. I'm old school. I like choice. I'll take that one, this one, this one. I don't want a subscription service. But guess what? How many people have a subscription to get a box of toilet paper from Amazon on their front door every week? I don't have to think about it. It just shows up. And so in our hurried, harried, frenzied, frantic culture, subscription allows people to not make a decision. It's another thing they don't have to make a decision about. That's a really different world for me. Okay? I don't find our decisions, Teresa does the menus, but her food decisions are, well, what do we have? And if she wants peaches for dinner, she makes my list and I go to the cellar and get peaches she canned in the summer. All right, that's where I go shopping. Okay? But it's based on what we have. And so the hardest thing in the world is for a farmer to put himself or herself in the shoes of the customer because we live in such different worlds. And so this customer, they're wanting convenience, they're wanting safety, and they're wanting health. Those are the three things. So we have to message in those terms. Now here's the problem. What excites me? Food safety? No, I don't even think about food safety. My lands, I gut a chicken and then grab an ice cream sandwich and eat it without even washing my hands. I've done that for 50 years. You know, cows are up near the house. I reach down and drink water out of the cow trough with the cows. There's a little snot in there. It's okay. It all feeds my microbiome and keeps me from getting sick. You know, I mean, I don't think about that, okay? You know what floats my boat? Let me show you the grass. Let me show you these earthworm castings. Let me show you these happy, healthy cows. You know what? Our customers don't care. I wish they did, but they don't. And so the problem is my messaging doesn't intersect with their need. Okay? So I find that for me, and I've really just, I don't know, metabolized this idea in just the last 5 years. It's really come, especially since I met Charlotte Smith. Anybody taking Charlotte Smith's course, marketing course? I mean, she sells milk for $25 a gallon. And her customers can't wait to pay for it. I didn't say they do wait, I said they can't wait to pay for it. $25 a gallon milk. I mean, so she and I teach the Stockman Grass Farmer marketing class, and boy, she's just fabulous. And her point is, they don't want to hear what you do, and they don't want to hear how you do it. We move the cows every day. We move the chickens. No, not interested in any of that. They want to know why for them. Why? What is it about your beef, pork, chicken, tomatoes, kimchi? What is it about that I should buy? And I find for me, I almost have to get in some sort of a, yoga Zen position to imagine being like my customer because we're so different. Okay? And so, for example, we did a little marketing blurb where I'm in my Zen yoga, okay. Imagine I'm a 35-year-old soccer mom, 2 kids, busy. I'm standing in front of the supermarket of the meat counter. You know what I am? I'm confused. What does free range mean? What does natural? What does hormone free? What does, You know what I'm talking about? And I'm confused. All I know is I got to have supper at 6 o'clock. The kids have a play date at 8. And I don't know what these labels mean. And is this the right thing? And I want to be a good mom. And all these emotions are going through. I want to be a good mom. I don't want to make my kids sick. I want to make my kids really healthy. I don't want to sit at the doctor. So which label? What does this mean? And are you with me? All this stuff's going through her head. Okay? None of that goes through my head. I go to the freezer. It's our beef. I pick it up and I eat it. You see? See, this is the problem. And so I did this little blurb. It was, half a page. Said, I know you're confused. You're standing in front of the meat counter. What does the label mean? And you're concerned that you're not getting the right stuff, the best stuff for your kids. I get it. So I'm going to solve your problem. Buy from Polyface, you never have to be confused again. Okay? We're going to be your anti-confusion coach. Your guilt-free product, whatever, okay? See how that resonates completely differently than, let me tell you about my earthworms. Okay? And so, I'll leave I mean, I could do a whole day seminar on marketing, okay? But I'm just telling you, our breakthrough has been, how do we talk like that? How do we message like that? With sound bites like that, to bring our customers along to feel like what we want is we want every one of our customers to feel like if we go out of business, they will die. Okay? That's what we want them to think. Okay? And so take that and run with it a little bit. So, you know, a couple things that we've done just lately are well, one of the best things we ever did was what we called the Larder program, where we offered volume buying at a discount, and it was all about building up your own larder, your own pantry. Now, we know you don't know how to do it. The idea of stashing food, you know, we haven't done it. We understand. We understand. That's hard to do. So you know what? We're going to coach you. We're going to be your larder coach. Here's how you do it. You buy 20 chickens instead of 5. You get a freezer to add to your thing. I know people who actually get used freezers, stock them at their farm, and if somebody will buy half a beef, they'll give them the freezer. Guess what? Those are loyal customers forever. Okay? So think about your customer, what's important to them, and then look at your whole program and say, how easy is it for me to buy from me? And of course, we now ship nationwide. We started that in July of 2019. And one of the things we learned quickly, as soon as we went to electronic, you know, to shopping cart, electronic shopping cart, we learned really quick, every deviation from Amazon is a hurdle to your customer. So Amazon's the gold standard for ordering online. So every single thing that is different, you know what that meant? That meant we had to quit charging by the pound. Well, all meat's sold by the pound. Not on Amazon. Everything's by the package. I mean, can you imagine Amazon? Yeah, I want to order a T-bone steak. And they say, all right, well, let us weigh it and we'll send you how much it is and then you can pay us. That's too much. You got to be able to drag that right down to your shopping cart, put it to your PayPal account, and boom, you know, it's up and running. So we spent a couple of weeks going through every single item and making small, medium, large categories of all of our meat, all of our chicken, all of our boneless, skinless breast, everything, categorize them so that now you can have your choice of 3 sizes in each designation, so it's sold by the package to look like Amazon. So those kind of things, okay? Mainly it's about messaging. Messaging, meeting needs, giving samples, circulating in the community, doing food fairs, craft fairs.
How do you get in front of customers, I think, also?
How do you get in front of customers? Well, the best thing is to bring them out to your farm. Have a chicken fry. Tell them each person can come if they bring a friend. We'll have a free barbecue chicken deal for you. Come free, but you have to bring a friend. Okay? You know, that kind of thing. What?
I said we were already thinking about that.
Okay. Good. All right. Yeah. But yeah, if you don't do chicken, you can whatever you do. Yeah. But create things to create activity and buzz. Okay. Another question. Yes, ma'am. Right back there.
Do you have any advice for someone trying to raise broilers and layers on a soy-free diet?
Advice for broilers on a soy-free diet?
And layers, yeah.
And layers. You can get feed on that's soy-free. I mean, there are rations.
They're super expensive, right?
Yep, they're super expensive. So you're going to have to charge double, which makes marketing difficult.
Right.
So now you have to be more creative at your messaging. All right? I mean, there's no free lunch. Okay? So, but since you asked the question, let me tell you my position on the soy deal. Okay? Because we've tangled with this as well, and we've done soy-free, non, you know, and offered it, and every time you offer a different product, you got to have a certain amount of movement of that product to justify categorizing it separately. Okay? We tried the soy-free, and it just wasn't enough movement to justify offering a different item to our people. So it's a bit of a problem. Same thing with Freedom Ranger. We offered Freedom Ranger for 3 years, and people said they couldn't tell any difference between that and the Cornish Cross. So we finally discontinued it because there wasn't any, and we had to charge more for it because they grew 2 weeks longer, and we've tried numerous of these things. I'll tell you where I am on the soybean. I tend to not agree that any food is demonic of its own right. All of the studies that I've seen about soy have been soybean meal, where they've extracted the oils. So I want you to think about when you part out things, they lose a lot of their wholeness character. A lot of things have enzymes and essential fatty acid components that when taken away don't ameliorate other issues that it might have. A perfect example is high fructose corn syrup. That's bad. Well, then I'm not going to eat corn on the cob ever again. Okay? I don't know anybody that won't eat corn on the cob because of high fructose corn syrup. And so by keeping all the fats and oils, so we use whole roasted soybeans, not soybean meal. Whole roasted, which means all the fats, all the oils are in there. It's like the whole corn on the cob, okay? The American Pastured Poultry Producers Association did a 2-year study on this question, soy and estrogen, okay, because that's what we're talking about, estrogen. They did about 3 or 4 trials, and guess what consistently had the highest, which chickens had the highest level of estrogen in the trials? Had nothing to do with the grain ration. It was the chickens that ate the most clover, because clover has a lot of estrogens. People who are sheep farmers, you want to be careful about having your sheep on too high a clover ration right at breeding, because it can affect their estrus, okay? So in the APAPAPA trial, it was clover that gave the highest estrogen in the chicken. Now, are we going to say, I'm not going to let my chickens eat clover? Chickens love clover. That's the #1 green thing they want to eat. So sometimes I think we're too smart for our own good. Sometimes we just get, I don't want to say paranoid, but you know what I'm saying. We can invent bogeymen that are not the real bogeymen. And so, I would just, we still use it, and I have a whole FAQ on it because our customers ask all the time, and I've explained it. And it's like Weston A. Price found whappers. We love whappers. We've got a lot of whapper. We call them whappers, and we have a lot of customers that are whappers. Weston A. Price Foundation, whappers, yeah. And we've got this heritage, because we're hatching our own pullets for our layers. So we're hatching, 4,000 chicks a year, or 5,000. Half of them are roosters, of course. Well, what do you do with those? So we've been growing them up and selling them as a heritage, chicken. Now, they've got orange fat. Boy, do they eat grass. I mean, they eat grass. You can't kill them with a stick. They're vibrant, unbelievable. The meat is extremely moist. It's all dark, razor breast. You present that even to a whapper, they'll pick the double-breasted Cornish brosshair every time. Even whappers, okay? So, Alan Nation, my mentor in marketing, always told me, he said, in marketing, you can only be so weird. You can be a nudist, or you can be a Buddhist. But if you're a nudist Buddhist, people just won't believe you. So here you are telling people you shouldn't buy your chicken at Walmart. You should buy your chicken from me. And you should pay a little more for it, blah, blah, blah. And then when you say not only that, but who wants that old breast meat? We don't want any of that breast meat. Who wants white meat? Nah, we don't want any white meat. We want dark meat. Who wants to be able to cook it fast? No, we want a chicken that you can't fry. We want a chicken that has to go in a crock pot and cook for 3 or 4 hours before you can eat it. You've just become a nudist Buddhist. Okay? So our position, and listen, I'm friends with people that want to do heritage breeds, people want to do the exotics, that's fine with me. I have no problem with that. And we sell some of our roosters, but only about 400 or 500 a year. It's not that many. But I'm a friend of that. But my position is people move incrementally. And one of our problems is that those of us gathered here, on a scale of 1 to 10, a 1 being I eat food from the Sheetz gas station, and a 10 being we've got a kitchen grain mill and a milk cow out back and a pantry full of canned goods. And are you with me? Okay. And some mung bean sprouts in the quart jar on a windowsill. Okay, that's the 10. All right. The problem is that in persuasion, if you're trying to persuade something, and of course marketing is persuasion, is if we're up here at 10, we see these 2s and 3s down here, and we want them to jump up here in a day. Doesn't work. So what I want, and we're very clear about this, let's agree that our chicken is not perfect. Okay, Cornish cross, it's got some issues. All right? But that is something, just imagine if every Tyson chicken house were closed, if we defunded the entire CAFO poultry industry, it all became pastured poultry Cornish cross. Can we agree that that would be way better than the current CAFO Cornish cross industry? All right, so we get everybody moved up to here, and that makes place for the next step. This is why entrepreneurs gradually, over lifetime, entrepreneurs begin hating their customers. Because entrepreneurs start with a new idea, and we build this idea, and we're learning. We're learning about chickens, we're learning about grass, we're learning about soy, we're learning about cooking, we're learning about, folic acid and polyunsaturated fats, and we're learning, and we're here 15 years down the road of learning. And every day the phone rings. What's a pastured chicken? And we have to answer it again with all the exuberance and enthusiasm as if I have never heard that. I'm so glad you asked that question. Let me tell you about the pastured chicken. It's the best thing. We're all, yeah. And so entrepreneurs, what we do is we intellectually and we grow away from our customer base, and we gradually get, that's what Alan Nation said, you gradually hate your customers because they're not progressing as fast as you are, okay? But you either have to appreciate that, grin and bear it, and smile anyway, or as your business grows and ages, our marketing team is now a bunch of 26-year-old girls. Man, they're so excited about this, and they love it to tell people about, for them it's all brand new. And I don't have to talk to these people. Another question. Anything else? Yes, ma'am.
Do you ever have problem with disease or contamination, food contamination ever on your farm?
Problem with food contamination or disease. Those are two very different questions. We've never had a food contamination. I mean, like somebody gets sick from our food.
Yeah.
We've never had anybody get sick from our food, ever. The closest we ever had was a lady who couldn't come and pick up her chickens, and she sent a friend who was already a customer, who'd been a customer for a long time, and he came and picked up her chickens for her, and it was a hot July day. He didn't have ice, and he, of course, took them home and took hers to her house, put them on her back porch, which faced the south, with no ice. She didn't get home till 7 p.m. Okay? So when she cooks the chicken, it smells like fish. And she's pretty upset. Now, she didn't get sick. They were just spoiled. And so we didn't even hear about this. She called the friend that picked them up. He immediately came over with one of his chickens, which he had handled as soon as he got home, put them on ice and got them, blah, 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 blah. And he gave her one of his. She cooked it. It was the best thing she ever had in her life, and no more problem. So that's the closest we ever had to somebody ever getting sick from our food that was anything close to legitimate. As far as diseases, yes, we've had about 4 serious diseases over the years. Been in this a long time, and every single one of them was our fault. Every single one of them. We had curly toe syndrome in chickens. That was a dietary deficiency in the feed. We had Merrick's. That was a spring. We raised a bunch of pullets for a lady who then didn't want them, so we didn't get hers out, and so we had way too many birds for our infrastructure, crowding them up, got unsanitary, cold, wet. Merrick's. We had a group of calves that got blackleg from brambles. Blackleg is an anaerobic, as a protozoa that comes in and anaerobic puncture wounds. And we had rented this new farm, and it had been neglected for a long time. Had acres of 12-foot tall blackberries, wild blackberries. Well, we wanted to cut them down, but the landlord is one of these greeny environmentalists. No, that's where the rabbits and the birds and da. And so we said, okay, well, we'll get them out any one way or the other. So we put the salt box in there and had the calves tromping down it. Well, we turned them into pin cushions, and it was too much. And that was us. What was the fourth one? I'm blank right now on the fourth one. Anyway, every one of these was our fault, which is why I believe, see, nature's default position is wellness. And if something is not well, we have messed something up. That's a real different philosophy than oh, it's sick, what vaccine did I not use? Okay? Or what pill or what medication or whatever, okay? And so I find that we learn a lot more by assuming if there's a sickness, what did we do to break down the immunological function, than if our first reaction is, oh, well, the disease fairies are out there, they picked us today. And I got to find some concoction to deal with some nefarious agenda that the spirits have sprinkled on the farm. I mean, that's the way the average farmer in America thinks. It can't be management. It can't be that I'm not giving them enough mineral. It can't be that, that I'm crowding them too much. It can't be any of these things. It must be that I'm not using the right concoction. And I think you learn a lot more assuming that it's my fault than that it's somebody else's fault.
And you usually find out about this disease on your own before.
Yeah. Well, my favorite is the blackleg one. That was really interesting. So had these, group of, 100 calves, sent them over to this new rental farm, first thing we'd put on the place. And, they're in there a week, and day 8, one of them dies. Now, these are 600-pound calves, okay? That's kind of weird. Next day, I go over to move them. There's another dead one. Well, that kind of gets your attention. Next day, I go over, there's 2 dead ones. Oh, now it's time to panic. I mean, this isn't a chicken, This is a 600-pound calf. So I call the vet. Vet comes over, takes his knife, slices up the hind quarter. I mean, he was there for 2 minutes. Blackleg. I mean, he saw it right now. Well, you're supposed to vaccinate for blackleg. Well, we never have. We don't do all that stuff. But faced with, I said, well, what do we do? He said, you got to vaccinate. You're going to lose them all. And so we got them in the next day, got the vaccine, vaccinated them all, didn't lose any more. Okay, so crisis averted, but it didn't set well with me. What's the deal here? We've never had to do this before. What's going on here? So one of the things that I do is I collect old ag books, like pre-1940 ag books. I got shelves of them. So I go to my beef cattle shelf of old stuff, and I'm reading these 1910, 1920, cattle books. And I'm each systematically looking at blackleg. Every one of them, it's a protozoa, ubiquitous in the soil. There's no cure. Vaccine's the only answer. You've got to bury the animal, put lime on it. Don't use that pasture for 5 years. All this just stuff. And so I'm going systematically through the books across the shelf. Are you with me? Across the shelf, across the shelf, across the shelf. I'm getting discouraged. I get to the last book, the last one. Open it up, blackleg. I'm reading the section. The last sentence says, enters the body, a protozoa that enters the body through anaerobic puncture wounds normally caused by excessive exposure to brambles. I mean, it was like, bah! I mean, it was, that's it. And I said, that's it. So then we went to the landlord and said, showed it. I said, here's the deal. Here's what happened. He said, okay, bush hog them down. So we jumped on the bush hog, mowed them all down, never had another issue, and we never vaccinated again. So I've had enough experience with these catastrophes. I guess the other one was a group of turkeys. The fourth group of turkeys. We had a group of 400 turkeys, and we were going to go out with them, but we suddenly got this cold, windy, rainy snap, and we didn't go to the field. So we put some fresh bedding down but we had to get them out of the brooder because we had chicks coming. So we had to get them out of the brooder, but I didn't want to go to the field with them because it was too cold, and we just hit this week of cold snap. So we put a bunch of bedding in the barn, wrapped a section with poultry net, and threw the turkeys in there, put a bunch of bales of hay that they could get behind. We didn't have any electricity. We couldn't put any heat on them or anything like that. You're going to laugh. We lost 399 of them. One survived. Pneumonia. They got cold and wet and went down with pneumonia. I mean, turkeys are really, young turkeys especially, are very susceptible. I mean, until they're 6 weeks old, turkeys have one desire in life: a more creative way to die. But at 6 weeks, they get a brain. And they decide, I think I'd like to live. And after about 8 weeks, you can't kill them with a stick. I mean, we've had them take 10 inches of snow. You go out there and, hey, turkeys, and they come up out of the snow. I mean, it's amazing. They're tough as they get older. But when they're young, they're pretty fragile. And so again, that was management. That was management on our part. Okay, so I take this whole sickness thing, this disease thing, I mean, this avian influenza, folks, I mean, come on. In 2008, we had a high-path avian influenza outbreak in Shenandoah Valley, and they exterminated like 30 million chickens and turkeys in the Shenandoah Valley. And they sent in a task force of 40 federal veterinarians to handle the extermination. And 2 of them were familiar with us, and they said, hey, you know, we've come from Nebraska or whatever, you know, let's go out and see this farm that we've read about. Okay. So they came, you know, one came on Monday, one came on Wednesday or whatever, you know, and they came out independently. These 2 vets sat in my front room. We had a nice conversation, interesting, you know, stuff. Without much prodding, each one of them said, off the record, every one of us 40 vets knows that the reason we're having this is because we've got too many chickens in too tight density in houses that are too close together geographically, overloading the ecology. We all know that. But if we breathe that publicly, we'll be fired in 24 hours. So they keep their mouth shut. And they send out the press releases. It's the geese. It's the mallards. It's the, you know, this, it's that. It's something. And oh, if we just had a vaccine, if we just had a vaccine. No, if you just emptied the houses and we went to pasture and poultry, wouldn't have the problem. But anyway.
Back to being president.
So you've never had avian at all?
No, we've never had any avian flu, and I don't want to be flippant because if you get it, it really is. I mean, it's significant. But I mean, I have a friend that had a 300 bird flock, which is not that big, 300 bird flock. He got it, but since he was a small flock, they didn't get to him to exterminate everything fast enough, and so it went on for quite a while until they got there, and he lost all but 250 of the 3,000. So that's pretty devastating. But here's the thing, folks. 250 never got it. Flourished, were happy, laying eggs. Now, wouldn't you think that somebody would say, those 250 are strong birds. Let's save those birds. Let's breed them.
Yeah.
And in a couple of years, we're going to have a robust strain. No. All of them have to be killed. And so the truth is that the 60 million head of poultry that have been killed with this high-path avian influenza in the last, 14 months, nationwide, only about 2 million of them have actually died. 58 million have been exterminated as survivors.
Do they blood test every one of those?
No, they don't blood test. All you need is one bird in a house of 100,000. If you have one bird, the house is dead. They kill every one of them.
So how do you know that there's 250 that didn't get it?
Because he had the flock. He was taking out dead ones. Okay? And it runs its course real fast. It like goes through in like a week. So anything that doesn't get it within a week of like first diagnosis, or is not going to get it at all. Okay, so all this death was very quickly, and then and then nothing. Okay, so these lived on days after the last one died.
Okay.
So they were survivors.
So they don't test
So-
them, they just...
No, they don't. No, I mean if you have chickens and one gets sick or has looks like it, you're supposed to get it tested, and then if it tests positive,
They're all gone.
all your birds are gone. There's no. It doesn't make any scientific sense to not keep the survivors and breed those. That just seems so simple to me. I don't understand what the problem is. But they'd much rather have a vaccine or some sort of concoction than deal with it from a production standpoint. Yeah. Question? Yes.
Earlier you were talking about each land has its own handicap, and you mentioned land that hasn't been messed with for a while. We have several acres of a hay field, has been plowed for a long time, just mowed and sold as cow hay for a while. And what do you think the cheapest way to get going on regenerating the soil and getting beef and chicken?
The question is, you have an old hay field, and what's the fastest way to get it rejuvenated and going? I mean, it's got grass on it, but it's not real fertile. Yeah, your seeds are there. You have to realize, folks, that the latent seed bank is huge. There is a huge latent seed bank. They did a fascinating test in Virginia years ago where they took a sheet. It was a 1 meter square sheet, and they put it out in the field, and every 2 weeks they went and picked it up very carefully and jiggled whatever was on it, and then with a microscope they identified. And what they found, you're not going to believe this, that every meter gets something like 20 seeds every 2 weeks on it. Seeds go in the wind, they come on spider webs, they come off of deer that run by, off of bird feathers that fly over. I mean, nature is incredibly adept at making sure the soil is not naked. Okay? I mean, you just walk away from something and something's going to grow. Okay? So in an abandoned field or in a low fertility field like this, it's just suffering from years of taking and nothing going back. So if you will go on with your multi-species and your tight controlled grazing, you're going to move them every day and go to high density, what we call mob stocking, herbivorous, solar conversion, lignified carbon sequestration, fertilization. You're going to get a response. Yes. And then whatever else you can do to be more aggressive, if you can get some compost, but I'll tell you what, chickens will make grass grow like nothing, because you get not only animal impaction with some scratching and that sort of thing, but you get all that manure, and that manure is something else. Question? Yes.
Yeah. So the question about the discussion about East Palestine, I remember seeing a video from Paul Stamets about something called. Well, I looked it up just a little after. Mycoremediation.
Yeah.
Using fungus and mushrooms.
Yes.
To remove toxicity from your soil or your environment, and I didn't know that's what I would look into if I were.
Yeah, what he's saying is that there are Paul Stamets, if you're familiar with him, he is the Mr. Fungi guy, and he has strains of mushrooms that can bioremediate toxins and things like this. Yeah, there are all sorts of applications like that, and yeah, I don't know.
You'd have to look it up.
You have to look into it. See, I mean, I don't know if you got a field. What do? You plant spores? I don't know. But yeah. But thank you for the suggestion. That's a great suggestion. Good. Yes, ma'am.
What's your position on varroa beekeeping? Do you do anything?
Beekeeping, the mites. Okay, it's a great question. There's a lot we don't know. Okay, but I will tell you a couple things that we're doing at our place that seem to be helping. One is we don't use foundation anymore. We just let the bees make their own. What we found is, I mean not us, but I mean the beekeeping community, that bees have changed in size over the last 40 or 50 years, partly because of feeding sugar water in the winter to keep them alive. It makes them actually grow a little bigger. And all foundations the hexagon is obviously pretty specific in size, and now often it does not perfectly match the hexagon that the bee lays on. So there's a couple of microns of space between the foundation and the wax. It's not a complete seal. And so there's enough space there for mites to come in. And of course, that's one thing. So we've found them to be a little better without using any foundation at all. Just let the bees make their own.
So when you harvest, do you just cut out all their combs?
You know what? It still looks like it's on foundation, but there is no foundation. It's pretty amazing. I mean, they still use the space and kind of do it. I'm not the bee guy, so I'm already over my pay grade here. Other people do the bees, but I'm telling you what I've been told. And we don't use any sugar water, so we leave a lot of honey on for winter. The biggest problem with bees, it seems to us, is these warm winters where it's warm enough for the bees to come out, but there's no pollen yet. So if we're not using sugar water and we didn't leave enough honey in there, the bees come out these warm February days when it's 60 degrees, and they buzz around and burn up all their calories, and they go in and eat extra. Next thing you know, they're out of feed, and because they eat it before you've got the pollen. So our perspective is the mites are secondary to being to being ultra safe in making sure they've got enough goodies there for the whole winter with these warm days we've had in the winter. I don't know. I'm around here in February. We had 2 weeks of like 68, 70 degrees. We had grass growth in February. I don't know. We turned out a group of 70 heifers to graze on February 24th. We had grass. Crazy. We've never done anything like that before. And then it got cold. Now it's freezing again. It's supposed to be 19 tonight, So that puts the kibosh on stuff. But we didn't turn out everything. We just turned out one group of heifers. Yeah. Got a couple more minutes. Yes, ma'am.
I just thought of this before, and I was wondering, now that we're on the bee conversation, is you know how the bee population is declining, and I have just thought about things and wondered over the years if maybe it's due to the fact that these bees are getting pollen, they're getting their pollen from flowers that have been, pretty much just call them GMO flowers, have been made to be blue daisies or whatever, and I wonder if that's an impact.
Yeah, well, there's pretty much agreement, I think, in the whole beekeeping community that the bees are like an ecological canary in the mine. As bees go, they're an indicator of issues, and bees are struggling, like all pollinators. And they are highly susceptible to pesticides, herbicides, toxicity, anything that's unnatural. The life of a bee colony is just almost unspeakably amazing. How many people have worked with bees at all? Good, that's great. I like bees, but bees don't like me, so I'll let somebody else do the bees. But I can tell you, for years, we had a guy have a yard. Now, we have our own beehives, but for years, we had a guy that had a yard on us. He had about 30 hives, and he was the biggest bee operator in Virginia. He had 4,200 hives scattered over 100 miles, in yards of 30 hives. And so he had, he had 120, 130 yards all around. And every year, for years and years, ours was the number one producer because ours didn't have any toxicity to deal with. And so that's pretty much agreed rule. And I'll tell you what too, our moving the hives around for pollination for like orchards and things. Again, just because we can, should we? That is not an indicator of innovation and prowess. That is an indicator that we are not creative enough to have a full holistic ecology well enough to keep bees going in the off season. It's an indicator of a concentration of pollination needs at one point that is above the carrying capacity of the ecology. Beehives should not be moved anywhere at any time. We should be working on enough diversity in that ecosystem and spreading out that pollination requirement with enough different kinds of things that are blossoming at different times in order to keep those bees happy. We just finished a 2-year working landscape study from the Smithsonian Institution, looking at 5 ecological benchmarks. One of them was pollinators. We were site number 27 in Virginia, and we were the only one that had all 8 bumblebee varieties known to exist in Virginia on our place. And it's because there's all this, because of the moving of the cows, there's always something in blossom. So the pollinators always have something to eat, and that's the next step beyond moving hives around. Yeah. Maybe one more question, we're going to call it a day. Is there one more? We'll call it a day. Yes?
What opportunities would you see today if you were a family and you wanted to start a homestead? Like, are there certain opportunities? Certainly you can just go buy land, but with all your experience, what would advice would you give?
Oh, your opportunities. You don't ask little simple questions as a homesteader. I mean, you have to decide what you want to do. But I'm a big believer, let's do this incrementally. I'm a big believer in the proximity principle. The proximity principle says if you want to do something, get as close to it as you can for as long as you can before you make the leap. And so, if you want to do this, become a homesteader where you are with what you have. And what I mean by that is, buying land is not going to suddenly make you into a homesteader. You are a homesteader in your head before you have land. So if you find yourself mowing your lawn, you might not be a homesteader. If you find yourself digging up your lawn and putting in raised beds for garden, you might be a homesteader. If you find yourself buying PVC pipes with pockets in them to have an herb garden hanging on your back porch, you might be a homesteader. If you've got a vermicomposting kit under your kitchen, as you're putting your kitchen scraps in, you might be you see what I'm saying? You bloom with what you've got where you are. The biggest lie is, I can't do anything until I have that. There's a lot of things you can do before you have that. So again, fill it up with where you are, with what you've got. My book, Polyface Micro, tells you even how to have rabbits and chickens in a Manhattan apartment. Okay? I mean, that's what I'm... And my favorite story about this is a lady in, and we'll close with this, a lady in Edmonton, Canada, several years ago, living in a 5th floor condominium, desperately wanted to farm commercially, but she didn't have any land, didn't have any money. Oh, what do I do? So she had one friend that had a backyard. She went to this friend, she said, would you mind if I put like a, 5-yard by 5-yard garden in your backyard? Friend said, oh, sure, that'd be interesting. So she came and put the garden in. Well, the next neighbor saw the garden. It was so pretty. She said, do you think your friend would put a garden in my backyard? I'll ask her. Well, yeah, I'd love to. So she put it in there. I met her about 18 months after this first garden went in. She was farming 18 backyards. Quit her job, was a full-time farmer. Her entire farm infrastructure was hand tools that she had on saddlebags in her bicycle. She bicycled from farm plot to farm plot, and she had a full-time business with farming backyard gardens for urban customers. And the name of her business was On Borrowed Ground. Is that not the most precious thing? So every time I hear the worst story, I don't have enough. I can't. Every time I hear that I meet somebody like that's taken lemons and made lemonade and is just flourishing in the face of seeming impossibility. So be encouraged and realize that there's a lot out there. Inertia works both ways. If you're sitting, it makes you want to keep sitting, but if you're moving, it makes you want to move. And so the thing to do is take a first step Don't worry about the second. Don't worry about the third. They'll show up when you get there. Take your first step, and then your second will become more obvious, and your third one will become more obvious. And movement will create movement. The first step is the hardest, but it's the most important. You guys have been wonderful. It's been a great time to visit with you. It's an honor and a privilege to be with you. I hope that all of your enterprises will be fantastic. Now may all of your carrots grow long and straight. Yeah. May your radishes be large but not pithy. May tomato blossom end rot affect your Monsanto neighbor's tomatoes. May the coyotes be struck blind at your pastured chickens. May all of your culinary experiments be delectably palatable. May the rain fall gently on your fields, the wind be always at your back, your children rise and call you blessed, and may we all make our nest a better place than we inherited. God bless you. Thank you for letting me spend the day with you. Blessings.
Stay here for a minute, just 1 second.
Thank you, Joel. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Stand up, everybody. We had a delightful day, and I just want to thank everybody for coming. You will. I do want to say something about the videotaping. It has been done, or video, we don't take anymore, but the videos. It will be available. I will let you know, and because I've got email addresses, I'll let you know about that. And don't forget our sponsors, okay?
Okay. I just want to say something. Everybody wants Joel to be president. I think the best thing to do is let's pray that he will influence the leaders like Mr. Tyson. And I'm going to pray for him right now, okay? Yeah. If you're a praying person, please pray with me, and let's keep praying. Lord, you have anointed Joel. He is a man after your own heart. And so I pray, Lord, that he would get attention all over the places you want him to influence people, especially the high-up people who can make a difference in our country and in our world. We thank you for Joel. We thank you, Lord, that he is listening to your call and willing to be a whatever he calls himself.
Bright, shiny light.
Yeah, he's all kinds of things, Lord. We just thank you for Joel. Pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Thank you all. Bless you. Okay, what do you think?